You don't fall in love with good people. You fall in love with people whose darkness you recognize. And when you fall in love with someone because your monsters have found a home in them, that's the kind of love that owns your skin and bones. That's a very interesting quote I came across, and I think it explains a lot when it comes to this magnetism, this pull that people feel towards other people who are not necessarily healthy for them, but at the same time, they feel there's something there for them. And it's almost like if they don't allow themselves to give in to that pull, they're either missing out, moving off their own track, or just losing a part of themselves. And here's the thing, a lot of that's all probably true. And that can hurt, especially if you're the kind of person who wants to avoid all toxicity in your life. But what you don't realize is, unless you allow yourself to go through certain experiences, and sometimes toxic people are the ones who can give you those experiences, it's hard for you to take the next step in your own personal progression. We like to think that we want to spend time with people who won't keep our traumas alive. We like to think that we like to spend time with people who only bring out our best traits. But at some level, a lot of us, we want to be in a situation where our worst traumas feel at ease. We want to be in a situation where our own darkest parts of ourselves, because we're in that particular situation, those things don't feel so bad. And that's why people who have so many unhealed traumatic wounds, whether it's from childhood or other reasons, they find themselves in situation after situation where they're in this constant roller coaster of emotions because they're putting themselves in a situation where they're in this sort of ongoing state of trigger or rumination because the person they're with is triggering these emotions in them. And even if you have that homely feel with someone new, you have this homely feel with someone because very toxic people, they can make you feel, at the beginning at least, perfect just as you are. They can make your darkest parts of yourself feel normalized, at least at the beginning. They can make you feel, at least at the beginning, unashamed for your own struggles and perhaps life failures and misfortunes, even things which you brought upon yourself. But of course all that's short-lived, because while these people can make you feel good about yourself, your best and worst traits at the beginning, you must not forget that they understand your worst traits well enough to be able to put that into a feel-good place in you. Because when you do something that's a little bit off or a little bit of a red flag yourself, they're not having erratic reactions to it. They're not having knee-jerk responses to it, because in a way, they see that heavily in themselves, and they can normalize it in you to the point where you put all your guard down. You put your boundaries low, and you open yourself up. And all of that can feel good at the beginning. All of that can feel good because it's almost like you have nothing else to heal. You have nothing else to work on. Being with this person means everything is fine. And that can feel really good for a while. And if you're with a healthy person, chances are you can't feel good like that, because healthy people won't give you the time of day. They'll ignore you. They won't take you seriously. You'll quickly realize, if you're only dealing with healthy people and you have a lot of severe unhealed trauma, that you kind of want to be a recluse. You don't really want to mix too much with society because you just don't relate to people. Or maybe part of you realizes that you kind of do want to relate to people, but you have so much to work on that you'd rather just live a solo life for now until you've worked on those parts of you that need healing, and then you can bounce back in and be more socially immersive. But when you're with certain toxic people, certain narcissistic, psychopathic characters who know trauma all too well, who know their own internal darkness all too well, you can feel right at ease right quickly, almost like you have nothing further to fix. And it's once you've become completely settled in that feeling, once you've become completely settled in this comfort zone, that they pull the carpet from beneath your feet and you don't have a leg to stand on. And so it goes from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour, in a sense. Things are perfect, and then things are really not good. But then that same experience will throw you down a whole healing journey. Because when you've been standing on a rug, some carpet that's just not suited for you, on a grounding that's not good for you, but you've just been there, and somebody pulls you from beneath the feet, and you just completely fall on your ass, disorientated, seeing little birdies floating around the air, trying to recover from the dizziness of the fall. When you get up, you realize this ground isn't reliable anymore. I need to find a new grounding. But actually, once you get up, you don't yet have a new grounding. So you do need to find that. And that's where people go on the so-called healing journey. And a lot of people go on many of these so-called healing journeys because you get up, you get comfortable, you fall. And unfortunately, the fall you don't recover from that immediately, but it takes time. But you can only recover from that in time if you let your old self go and you start grasping on to new personality traits, which eventually become part of the new you. So, in these things, they happen in cycles. If someone has suffered extreme forms of trauma, you're not going to heal through one healing journey. And you're not going to heal on your own. You might heal on your own after you probably do need to mostly heal on your own after you've been through a bad experience. But your growth and your forward movement in time comes through acknowledging the parts of you that do need adjusting. And that, unfortunately, does largely come from interactions with people who have the ability to show you those parts of yourself. But each time that happens, you should be a little bit closer to the version of you that you want to be. If anyone ever tells you that you can go from being the most traumatized person on the planet to the most well-adjusted, clear-minded, happy person on the planet without going through trials and tribulations which involve other people, then they're just filling you with shit, because unfortunately, it is through social interactions, it is through people identifying in us things that we need to work on, that we become knowledgeable of those things. But that doesn't mean you should make the same mistake twice. That just means you should acknowledge what's being presented to you as and when it's becoming presented to you, because you don't need to repeat the same thing again and again. So, in a lot of this healing, once you've come out of a situation, it's not like you need to actively work on yourself and work on yourself and work on yourself. A lot of times it's in the subtleties, because once you've bounced out of a toxic relationship, a part of that person will live inside you for a long time. And the best thing you can do is accept it. And what I mean by that is, people don't like this whole idea of intrusive thoughts. People don't like this whole idea of rumination. People don't like this idea that certain people are living inside you and you can't really get them out of you. They're living in your chest, they're living in your gut, they're living in your head. They're kind of living in your core a little bit. And the more you try to push them away, the more they live there. And the more you try to feed it by thinking about all the good times, or maybe you want them back, then it also becomes exacerbated. But the best you can do if you want to heal and be healthy is accept that they're there, but don't feed it one way or the other. Don't push it away, but also don't regularly dive back into the nostalgic feelings of what that person was in your life in the past. Go about your day to day, and what you'll realize is that person is living inside you only for as long as you need them to. And you can't change the timing of that, because you will need to change something about yourself for that person to leave you. It's almost like the devil is living inside you like a godsend, because they're forcing a bit of change in you. And you're not going to make that change from one day to another, from one week to another, or even from 1 month to the other. It takes a bit longer. But as you accept them living in you, but you kind of subtly let it go every time you acknowledge that, and then you carry yourself in a way, you do things, you focus in certain ways, and the things you do that mean that their presence becomes felt less and less, is not counting vices, of course, not counting anything unhealthy habits, but just kind of regular, growth-oriented, personal enjoyment type things that you do that cause you to feel that person less and less and think about them less and less are probably the things that, if you continue to do, will cause that person to, in good time, no longer be in you. So that last piece there, it really is just about not getting obsessively pissed off just because you can't let somebody go immediately. And if you can accept they're going to be with you for a while until your core knows that you don't need them anymore, then that's the only right way. Thanks for watching.